How you doing? I'm Callan and this is Slapped Ham. Today we're looking at the most haunted dolls available on eBay right now. So hit that subscribe button and get ready for more creepy content just like this.
A seller named Terry put a porcelain doll up for sale on eBay that she calls Sheila. According to Terry, Sheila is a perfect paranormal doll because her large, wide eyes are extremely lifelike and are an accurate representation of the spirit residing within. Sheila also carries a teddy bear that may be an important trigger object for the spirit haunting the doll. Terry states that she's taken EVP recordings from the doll and gotten very clear results. During sessions with the doll, the paranormal investigator asked if she could take the teddy bear that Sheila always holds. The spirit gave a very clear and emphatic no as the answer. Terry hasn't tested to find out what would happen if the bear were to be taken away, but the spirit seems quite attached to it, and parting her from the toy could have disastrous consequences. Many sellers of haunted dolls don't know much about their backstories. In the case of this disturbing looking toy, the seller speculates that the doll might have been created by using a death mold of a recently deceased infant. The seller states that the doll is incredibly detailed, especially around the spinal column, face, and soft spots on the skull, suggesting that it was made using a real-life child as a mold. The seller of this doll states that numerous people have sensed a presence within the doll. Since bringing the doll into their home, they've noted that brand new light bulbs have been shattering without explanation with an alarming frequency. They also noted that their young daughter has been experiencing night terrors frequently. She was not prone to night terrors previously, so the doll could be the cause. In addition, the young girl has been speaking to someone no one else can see. She calls this person Anna. These haunted dolls have an eerie history rooted in the practice of voodoo. The dolls are oddly out of proportion, making their smaller heads seem creepy and out of place. Their facial expressions seem to suggest fear, making one wonder what it is the dolls have seen in their long lives. According to the seller of these particular dolls, modelled after a Southern Belle and her lady-in-waiting, these dolls have been part of a collection of dolls owned by Marie Laveau. During her lifetime, Laveau was one of Louisiana's most infamous voodoo priestesses. Stories of her frightening powers have been passed down for generations. It is said that Laveau is one of the founders of Creole voodoo that still has a presence in New Orleans today. The seller doesn't note any particular paranormal activity associated with the doll, but if it was owned by Marie Laveau, there's a very good chance that it was used in her voodoo practice, and could have a spirit attached to it. Some haunted dolls are creepy because of how lifelike they are. This doll's eerie aura is frightening for the exact opposite reason. The doll's head was fashioned using a shriveled apple, making the toy look like a withered old hag. The seller states that the doll was made in the 1970s and that she acquired it from an estate of a recently deceased woman. The seller is an avid collector of dolls, but she doesn't feel comfortable keeping these dolls with the rest of her collection. The seller doesn't describe any specific paranormal events associated with the supposedly haunted doll. However, they claim that the dolls acquired from the deceased woman's estate all have a terrifying energy that makes the seller believe that they may be haunted. This 100-year-old doll was well loved by its original owner. The wear on the doll suggests that it was played with frequently, and the wear on the face in particular makes the toy's features blurry and indistinct. Still, the eyes of the doll seem to be always watching. According to the seller, the doll was originally owned by a young boy who was extremely attached to it. When the boy died at age 8 of an asthma-related illness, his spirit seems to have remained attached to the doll. The boy's parents claimed that after their son passed away, they saw an apparition that looked like him near the doll. They also claimed to have heard his voice and footsteps in the vicinity, and had occasional electrical disturbances while the doll was still in the house. The faces of some haunted dolls, such as this one, are eerie because of their contradictions. This doll's mouth is wide open as if screaming, yet its eyes are dead and lifeless, making the toy truly frightening to look at. According to the seller of this doll, the toy is haunted by the spirit of an ancient Sumerian demon called Sargomos. The seller states that the owners of the doll will hear the demon's voice and screams, which will gradually get louder the longer it remains in the home. The seller has also experienced electrical disturbances and the sudden feeling of being tapped on the shoulder while the doll was around. The seller believes that the previous owner of the doll was a practitioner of black magic who used the doll to keep their spirit bound to the mortal world. Although the disturbances associated with the doll have not yet been violent, there is the possibility that darker occurrences are in its future. Sally is a unique doll in that her eyes are closed. Most dolls get their creepy aura from their lifelike yet dead eyes. However, because Sally's closed eyelids are discoloured, she almost appears to have pure white eyes that stare wildly at anyone who gazes at her. The story goes that Sally was a young farm girl in Massachusetts. She always wanted to cut her hair, but her parents forbade it. She often played with the doll, excited by how much the doll resembled her. At age 10, Sally tragically drowned. The seller of the doll believes that Sally's spirit remained attached to her beloved toy. The owners of the doll have noted that it moves randomly between rooms, and that they sometimes hear the sounds of splashing water and screams when the doll is nearby. The toy's hair also seems to grow, very similar to Sally's long hair that she was never allowed to cut. The doll's next owner may also have to contend with disturbing nightmares of Sally's death, so this eBay listing is not for the faint of heart. The seller of this haunted doll states that the toy was obtained along with a group of other dolls. However, the seller is eager to be rid of the new collection as odd and disturbing things have been happening in the doll's presence. The doll has wide, dark eyes that seem to stare sadly at anyone who looks at her. The eyes are so dark that from a distance they look like voids in the doll's head. The seller is deliberately vague about the haunted activity the doll has caused, so the buyer of this toy would have to be very brave or very foolish. As far as creepy doll eyes go, it's hard to beat Lacey. Her large eyes, staring out from above her chubby cheeks, are pale red in colour. It's difficult to believe that a doll maker would have fashioned eyes in such an unrealistic and terrifying colour. So what could have happened to turn Lacey's eyes such a disturbing shade? According to the seller, the spirit within Lacey was a young girl who went to meet her biological father against her mother's wishes. She never returned from the trip. Now anyone who owns the doll can speak to her spirit. The seller states that these conversations are often unnerving, as Lacey knows everything about you, even things you may have forgotten. What remains to be seen is how Lacey will use her sinister knowledge. Before we get to that number one spot and take a look at one of the creepiest haunted dolls ever listed on eBay, remember to hit that subscribe button and tickle the bell icon. That way you'll be updated about all our latest content. Of all the dolls on this list, this doll has the most terrifying history. The doll was in the home of a woman who was a member of a satanic cult. The woman ended up murdering her husband and children in a ritual, and their spirits seem to have become bound to the dolls that were in the home. The seller states that they visited the home and got a strong sense of evil. They were forced to leave the house because of an overwhelming feeling of nausea. Since owning the doll, the seller has heard whispering voices, often late at night. The doll also sometimes moves its arm on its own as if reaching towards something. The seller believes that the spirit within the doll wants to protect those around it, but they can't be sure of its true intentions.
If you want some more creepy slaptam content, then check out those two links right there. Now in the comments section below, let us know whether you'd actually consider buying one of these creepy dolls off eBay. And that's it for me. I'll see you all next time.